The Ladybird browser has been trying to build a truly independent web browser. Now, it's certainly not the first one. Of course, there are projects out there like Servo, which started as a part of Mozilla and was gonna be the future of Firefox. Then Mozilla changed plans and that didn't happen. Now Servo's an independent thing. Either way, Ladybird, I think, is a really cool project. Now, a few months back in February, Andreas Kling said this: Ladybird adopts Rust with help from AI, basically announcing the codebase was going to be moving from C++, not to Swift, which is what the original plan was, but instead over to Rust. This led to a bit of drama, firstly because of Rust, but also because of the use of AI and converting the codebase with AI. It wasn't just like, hey, write me a browser in Rust. It was directed engagement with it. But regardless, AI drama, anytime AI comes up, there's gonna be complaints about it. At the time, this was a relatively controversial change to make in the Linux space, and honestly, I don't know if that sentiment's ever going to change. I would assume someday, but that's a discussion for another time. Now, Andreas Kling has spoken quite a number of times about AI usage in open source, but recently saying this: the cost of generating plausible code is approaching zero. So is the cost of spinning up fake identities, submitting plausible PRs, and engaging convincingly in open source communities. I don't believe patches welcome style development survives this for security-sensitive projects. This is really sad. It kills something that made open source magical for so many of us, myself included, but the problem is real, and we need to deal with it as an industry. First step is opening our eyes to how much the economics have changed. This doesn't necessarily mean that good code is being generated. Now, it's gotten a lot better, but now we're at a point where it can convincingly replicate like a junior developer, someone who is not really that proficient at code, and it's quite good at creating fake identities, communicating with people in a way that, at least if you're not really poking at it, can be hard to tell. But even if it takes you 3, 5, 10 messages to work out, if you have 100 different people interacting with you, and let's say 90 of them are fake, how do you work out which 10 are real without spending a lot of time hyper-analyzing every single interaction? This takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and frankly, I get why you'd want to do something to fix this. For projects out there which are completely against the use of AI, this is something they are going to have to deal with. If they don't want any AI code in their code base, you now have to work out, are these people actually using these tools and not telling me? Are they generating code and then working from that? Are they just generating it and then explaining how it works? Is this AI code and they're not just telling us? For maintainers that may not be that experienced, may not really know how to dig through this code, for example, like with the PewDiePie Odysseus project, this got a lot of people submitting PRs. People need to check over these PRs because a lot of these are frankly utter garbage. And if you don't know what you're necessarily looking at, trying to sort through that becomes just a hellscape. And then even for experienced maintainers, experienced developers like Daniel Stenberg of the Curl project, even if you know what you're looking at, you can't just assume, oh, first line you read, this is garbage. A lot of the time you're dealing with people that might be using these as a translation tool, so maybe the way they're writing is AI generated, but they do understand what they're saying. All they are doing is just translating it from their native language into a language that you understand. Whilst I may not be happy about this, I understand why the change is being made. Ladybird is moving into a new phase as we work towards our first alpha release. We are tightening how code enters the project going forward. Code changes will only be introduced by project maintainers, and we will no longer accept public pull requests. This obviously has led to a bit of negative feedback, we will say. But first, let us go and take a look at the blog post further explaining this. This is not a change we make lightly. Many valuable contributions have come from outside the maintainer group over the years, and that's typically how you get into the maintainer group, and we are grateful for them. Many of us also came up through open source by sending patches to projects we cared about. For decades, code contributions have been how open source projects learned who to trust. People would show up, do the work, take responsibility for their changes, and stick around. Over time, trust emerged from the work itself. Before AI tools, you can generally assume that if somebody is consistently contributing code, consistently getting involved, they are somebody who is actually wanting to be involved. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes you do get malicious actors who stick around for a long time and eventually sneak their way into a project by years and years of good work. But most of the time, this is how things were done. AI tools have changed the economics of this very quickly. We use them ourselves every day, but a pull request no longer tells us as much as used to about the person submitting it. A substantial patch used to imply substantial effort, and that effort was a reasonable proxy for good faith. That assumption no longer holds. Now you can very easily generate a 5,000 line change and not know a line of code yourself. And maybe that code is utter garbage, and maybe that code is just not something that's ever going to fit into the code base. But maybe you are an engineer, and maybe you do generate that 5,000 lines of code, but you know how to sneak things into it. You know that there are places you can hide stuff that people are not necessarily going to notice that, hey, there's a bit of a security hole here. That was something you could always do. But now doing so is considerably easier. For a browser, this matters. A browser runs untrusted input from the entire internet on the user's machine, and one well-disguised vulnerability is all an attacker needs. We have already seen patient, well-resourced campaigns in open source to earn maintainer trust and abuse it. Prime example being the XZ case. What has changed is how much faster and cheaper it has become to produce work that looks like a serious contribution. At the same time, every change that enters Ladybird becomes our responsibility. You can blame, oh, it was this maintainer, it was that maintainer. At the end of the day, if the Ladybird browser lets it into their codebase, they have to deal with it. It doesn't matter if some malicious developer did it, it's now your problem. It has to fit the architecture, survive refactoring, interact correctly with the rest of the browser, and be understood by the people maintaining it. Whether code was typed by hand is beside the point. What matters is who is responsible for it once it enters the browser. Ladybird is becoming a browser for real users. The people introducing changes to it must be the people who decide those changes belong in the project and who will answer for the consequences. As part of this change, we will close all currently open pull requests. We are grateful for the work people put into them, but keeping the existing queue open would keep that contribution path open in practice. There is no perfect time to make this change, so we are making it now. Going forward, pull requests will only be available to project maintainers. This is something which has already happened. If you go look at the PR list, everything in here is either by a member or a contributor. There are now just no random PRs that are still sitting open. Also, as it currently stands, they are not yet bringing on any new maintainers. This is likely due to the fact that they are getting the alpha ready, and then after that point, I would hope they open things back up once again. There will not be a separate process for submitting patches by other means. We do not want to create a shadow contribution system through issues, comments, email, or forks. External code can of course exist under the terms of the license, but will not treat forks or patch dumps as a review queue for upstream Ladybird. Ladybird remains open source. The source code will continue to be publicly available under an open source license. Outside involvement still matters. Clear bug reports, reductions, Not sure what that means. Website testing, standards discussion, design discussion, security reports, and technical feedback all help move the project forward. This is the right change for Ladybird now. We are preparing to ship a browser to real users, and our development process has to match that responsibility. This is not the first project to take this model. Now, the other projects doing it, I don't believe did so at all related to AI, but they're still relevant projects. One of those being Lua. Lua is open source. Everyone knows it's open source. Their website is apparently garbage, but anyway, they say this. Is there a public revision control repository? There is a public mirror on GitHub of the Lua development code as seen by the Lua team. It contains the full history of commits, but is mirrored irregularly. Please do not send pull requests, send bug reports and suggestions to the mailing list. Lua is open source, but it is not openly developed. Here is why. Lua is our language. That does not mean we didn't listen to other people. We read practically every message in the list. Several important features in Lua start to evolve from outside contributions, e.g. metatables, coroutines, and the implementation of closures, to name just some big ones. But ultimately, we decide. We do not do this because we consider our judgment better than others. It is only because we want Lua to be the language we want it to be, not to be the most popular language in the world. Accordingly, our discussion style may be considered somewhat unusual by some people. We do not argue till exhaustion defending our points of view. There's a lot of open source projects like that. We present our views and read others. If we consider that we have something that really contributes new material to the discussion, we may reply, but we do not feel obliged to convince others or even ourselves that our point of view is the best one. Because of this development style, we prefer to not have a public repository for Lua. That is not because there are secrets there. We can provide a current snapshot of Lua if anyone asks. Before new versions, people have enough opportunity to express their opinions when we release work versions. But we do not want to have to explain every single change we make to the code. We do not want to keep our documentation updated all the time. We want freedom to follow strange ideas and then give up without having to explain every move. Another project is SQLite. Open source, not open contribution. SQLite is open source, meaning that you can make as many copies of it as you want and do whatever you want with these copies, without limitation. But SQLite is not open contribution. In order to keep SQLite in the public domain and ensure the code does not become contaminated with proprietary or licensed content, the project does not accept patches from people who have not submitted an affidavit dedicating their contribution into the public domain. All of the code in SQLite is original, having been written specifically for use by SQLite. No code has been copied from unknown sources on the internet. These projects are two positive examples. However, anytime a discussion comes up regarding open source and open contribution, it always goes to things like Elasticsearch, MongoDB, Paint.net, where what if they decide they're going to eventually just drop open source altogether? I don't really see that happening in the case of Ladybird. Now, maybe it does, but every discussion I've had with Andreas Kling, I don't think he has any interest in going down that route. Now, you can have your own opinion here, but here's some excerpts of things that he said.
And it's awesome to see so many people. Somehow every month we're always welcoming new people. A lot of the old people keep coming back and writing more code. It's great to see people just enjoying browser development, I guess. It's something that is very near and dear to my heart, and I love being part of this project where we get to introduce new people to it. If you are interested in perhaps trying out browser development, come join our Discord. We're always working on stuff. We're always helping new people get up to date, up to speed. And we're always looking for more developers. So come hang out. All right.
That was from about 8 months ago.
And it's awesome that so many people are pitching in and continuing to grow this project and maturing it and making it better. Very, very cool. And of course, thank you as
That is from November of 2025.
This month in March, we had 352 pull requests that got merged, totaling 984 commits. So very close to 1,000 commits. We saw 49 individual contributors, and the really cool thing is that 19 of those were first-time contributors. So folks making their very first code contribution to Ladybird. This is awesome. I'm so glad to see new people taking up browser development and having a good time with it.
That is March of this year, and just back in April of this year.
Okay, now before we go, I want to thank everybody who contributed to Ladybird in the month of April. This is a list of everybody who has a commit in the repository this month. And as I said earlier, 7 of these are new people. So that's always awesome to see new people becoming browser developers, or at least entertaining the idea of becoming browser developers. I hope you had fun. I hope that you enjoyed the contribution process. Hope to see you back. And thank you so much. And thank you to you.
I don't think this is something he wanted to do. I think this is someone who understands the direction that things are going, is operating a large project, and isn't operating a project where AI is just entirely banned. Is actually addressing the AI concern, the AI problem, AI code, whatever you want to say, at its face value, and is starting to see where things are going, and realizes that this is going to become a problem. At the same time, I do understand why some people feel like they've been betrayed or lied to, because Ladybird all this time has been a project where you've been encouraged to go and get involved. What a horrible change on so many levels. Defeats a lot of the benefit of FOSS in my opinion, and will significantly hurt this project going forward. Feels like this post was almost written as if you guys forgot the concept of simply reviewing PRs before merging them. As I addressed before, that's a lot of time when you can't trust the PRs are not coming from real people, and you're dealing with just a deluge of slop. A bit sad to see this. There are successful projects like this, notably SQLite, but there should be a reasonable middle ground between everyone can just flood us with 30,000 line Claude implement feature X make no mistake PRs, and we're not open to outside contributions. I understand this reduces the risk from a minority of malicious contributors, but the changes made in the past 4 months leave Ladybird almost unrecognizable from the project it once was. For me, this is a less exciting project now. Still, I wish you and the team best of luck. So, only existing developers can contribute. What happens as those developers get bored or burnt out and leave? Is this going to just become a commercial project where only employees work on it? My hope is post-alpha they start allowing new maintainers to come in, but we will see what they do then. This is weird, Andreas. After years of saying, come join browser development, it's so much fun, you just close it altogether for outsiders. I understand shipping and alpha takes priority, but there should be a middle ground, lower priority, marking stale faster, and so on. As I've said a couple of times, I am not happy about this change taking place. But I also understand why they have done so. A browser is a really complicated project, and if you don't have the resources of something like, Google to manage Chromium, that gets really difficult really fast. But I do hope that once the alpha comes out and we actually get to really see this browser, hopefully from then on, at the very least, let new people in, bring new people into the project, even if you don't go back to full open contribution, just some path to get involved with the project. I don't want to see this go down a route where only people employed by Ladybird are working on the project. That's not where it's at right now, but it certainly has the possibility of going down that route, and whilst it wouldn't be the end of the world, I still wouldn't like it. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this change? Do you think this is a good change? Do you think this is a bad change? Do you think it's going to change after the alpha? I would love to know. So go and like the video, go subscribe, and if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe, Steely Bearer Pay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and the alpha is soon.